The police closed in on him, grabbing him without warning. There were no signs of a crime, just a man among thousands. But when they asked his name, they froze. He wasn't just anyone. He was a Supreme Court judge. How did he end up here? The truth will shock you, but what happened next will leave even the toughest speechless. Let's start from the beginning. It was just another afternoon in New York City. Crowds rushing along the sidewalks, the hum of city life everywhere. Derek Williams, a man in his mid-40s, walked among them, his pace steady and unhurried, as if he were part of the very rhythm of the city. His face, calm and collected, betrayed none of the thoughts running through his mind. Derek was a man of routine, someone who'd built his life on precision and discipline. As a respected judge on the Supreme Court, he had earned his place among the city's elite, though few people knew of his position. Derek preferred the quiet anonymity of blending in with the crowd, far from the spotlight that often accompanied his work. That afternoon, however, fate would change everything. As Derek passed by a busy subway entrance, a sharp shout broke through the noise. Before he could react, two police officers grabbed him, their hands firm on his arms. "You're under arrest for theft and assault," one of them barked, his voice harsh and commanding. Derek's body stiffened in shock. The world seemed to freeze for a moment as confusion swept over him. "What is happening?" he thought. He opened his mouth to protest, but the words caught in his throat. This couldn't be happening. The officers had mistaken Derek for someone else, another man involved in a recent string of robberies. Derek tried to explain, tried to tell them who he was, but his calm demeanor only seemed to fuel their suspicion. They weren't listening. They were certain of their mistake, yet the weight of their misunderstanding felt real. With little more than a glance, they dragged him to a squad car. The chaos of the city continued around them, people oblivious to the unfolding drama. Derek's mind raced, his professional training trying to stay ahead of his emotions, but nothing seemed to make sense. He was just a man walking down the street, a judge who had done nothing wrong. Yet here he was, pulled from the crowd and treated like a criminal. "Let me call my lawyer," he pleaded, but his voice was drowned out by the officer's indifference. In that moment, Derek felt the full weight of powerlessness. The city carried on, but his world had come to a halt. Within hours, the news had spread like wildfire. Derek Williams, a respected judge on the Supreme Court, was arrested for violent crimes, allegedly involved in a series of robberies. The hashtag, #caught red-handed, exploded across social media, accompanied by videos of his arrest that had been filmed by onlookers. Derek's calm, dignified silence during the whole ordeal only seemed to confirm his guilt to many. It was as if the quiet, controlled way he held himself made him appear more suspicious, more guilty in the eyes of the public. The reactions came swiftly. Friends, colleagues, and strangers alike voiced their shock and disbelief, but soon their surprise turned into skepticism. Some of Derek's peers from the court, people who had worked alongside him for years, began to ask themselves, could he be guilty? Was it possible that this man they'd respected and trusted could have committed such crimes? The uncertainty spread like an infection, eating away at Derek's reputation. The name he'd built with decades of hard work, integrity, and honor was now tarnished, possibly beyond repair. Inside the cold, dimly lit holding cell, Derek felt the crushing weight of it all. The stark concrete walls seemed to close in on him as his mind raced, trying to make sense of what had happened. He had been in countless high-stakes cases throughout his career, cases where people's futures hung in the balance, but none had prepared him for this moment. None had prepared him for the feeling of being helpless, of being reduced to nothing more than a suspect, a headline. What had once been a life of order and control now seemed like a distant memory. The system that Derek had dedicated his life to, the very system he had spent years upholding, now appeared to have failed him completely. Was there any way to prove his innocence? Or had one simple mistake, the wrong place, the wrong time, ruined everything he had worked for? Derek's mind swirled with doubt, and the silence of the cell seemed to mock him, leaving him to wonder how much longer he could hold on to the life he once knew. The truth, when it finally emerged, did so in a way no one had anticipated. A local news anchor, digging deeper into the story, uncovered a crucial piece of information that had been completely overlooked during the arrest. Derek Williams's full name. On his identification under the occupation section, it read, Justice Derek Williams of the U.S. Supreme Court. The revelation hit like a bombshell. What had started as a routine arrest for violent crimes rapidly morphed into an explosive public scandal. The news spread fast, igniting shockwaves throughout the media and police departments alike. Derek, the man wrongly accused, was not just another anonymous suspect. He was a respected judge on the highest court in the land, a symbol of the very justice system that had failed him. The impact was immediate. The arresting officers, once lauded for their swift action, were now under intense scrutiny. An internal investigation was launched into their conduct, and questions were raised about how such a catastrophic mistake could have been made. The truth hung in the air like a heavy cloud, threatening to overshadow everything that had come before it. For the public, the twist was even harder to digest. The same people who had rushed to condemn Derek, who had shared the viral videos and passed judgment without question, were now forced to confront the uncomfortable reality. They had been complicit in the rush to judgment. Their outrage, fueled by incomplete information and sensational headlines, had played a part in tarnishing an innocent man's life. As the story unfolded, it became clear that Derek wasn't just an innocent bystander caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He had become a powerful symbol of the very system that had failed to protect him. The justice system, once a beacon of fairness, was now the object of intense scrutiny, and Derek, whether he wanted it or not, had become its tragic focal point. The truth had come to light, but it had come with a heavy price. The pressure on the police department was immense. An apology was issued, but it felt hollow and empty to those who had witnessed Derek's mistreatment. Derek, however, did not seek revenge. Instead, he used the situation to call for systemic reform. In a press conference that would go down in history, he spoke not just as a judge, but as a man who had felt the full force of the injustice he had long fought against. Today, I was the victim of a system that forgot the very values it was built upon. I was stripped of my dignity and my rights, not because of my actions, but because of my skin. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. We must demand better, Derek said, his voice strong, unwavering. The public's opinion shifted in an instant. The man who had been unjustly humiliated was now a hero, an embodiment of resilience and dignity in the face of adversity. His call for change sparked a nationwide conversation on police misconduct, racial injustice, and the need for true accountability. In the end, Derek did not only reclaim his reputation, he became a symbol of hope, and his ordeal catalyzed the reform that had long been overdue.